You join us today on the lovely River Wye in Hereford, a venue we've been to once before, but I couldn't resist begging Dave to bring me back because it was so epic last time we came.
I always feel like you're doing me a favour by letting us come to the Wye, but actually I'm doing you a favour, Tom.
You're doing me a huge favour.
This is stunning. Look at that, a roach. Look at this for a roach. Look.
Absolutely gorgeous.
You'd put the net under that, wouldn't you?
I would probably net that, to be fair. But you're an animal. You Wye anglers, you're a different breed.
We're baggers. We're baggers.
So we're here today to test two very different products. First of all, we have the new Cadence 16-foot #1 match float rod, and we have some bait as well, Dave.
Yes, no, the bait side of things is a bit. I've got to be the one that sort of
the cynic in the camp.
I've got to be the cynic, and I'll be honest. That's probably sums it up pretty well, really. I've not used it yet, and I've spent a lot of time with you. This is a product that you're involved with, but we feel like we might have found something today that is a good test for it, because I think up until this point, I've been reluctant to use it in any match situation. I've not seen anything that makes me think I've got to use that in a match. But I've seen recently there's a window of opportunity for it on this river, and that's what we're going to try and do today. Well,
it's going to be interesting, folks, and that of course is the Fjuka bait. So yeah, I think it's going to be
did we not mention the name Fjuka?
We didn't. We have now, though, Pop.
We have now. It's not a name you forget, is it?
No. Well, it's I tell you what, it's almost rude, isn't it? Almost rude.
It is.
Anybody think they did it deliberately, wouldn't they?
Well, you'd wonder. You'd wonder.
So yeah, River Wye. It's October. Late October. Dave sat here in a t-shirt.
T-shirt. We made tough stuff round here, Tom.
I'm slightly more nice. I've got my hoodie on, but it's gorgeous weather, and I think it's going to be an epic day.
I think it's going to be brilliant.
You're going to catch us one?
I'm going to catch you one just for now. I've got the Fjuka on.
What we got? A white piece of 5mm on there.
A white piece of 5mm. I've flattened it slightly to make it look like almost like a disc.
A beautiful little cast. You're feeding some hemp.
We're just feeding hemp. Real simple. Feeding hemp. Fjuka on the hook.
Be interesting to see if it goes under again, won't it? What do you think of the rod, mate? It's
right. So I've used a few of these Cadence rods now. Oh, I missed one. I missed a bite.
Dave, stop it.
And I like the rods. What I like about this is the 16-foot. Right. So there's quite a few companies that have brought out 17-foot rods, 3-piece 17-foot rods. Yeah. And they've fallen short. Most of them fall short. The best 17-foot rods I've used myself are my John Allerton tri-cast ones, but they're a 4-piece rod. They have a separate butt handle. I don't think anyone's ever really sussed the 17-foot market, but 16-foot is more doable in 3-piece.
Yeah.
And it's a nice, I mean, we're fishing right down the middle of the river today. We're fishing at distance, so we need line control, we need a longer rod, and but you also, you know, it's very active, isn't it? So you don't want to lose any of your mobility with having a too heavy a rod or whatever. And especially, I might have mentioned to you, but I'm suffering with a bit of tennis elbow at the moment. Well,
you are getting older. It's something that's been noted, isn't it?
I'm not even going to argue with it. Age is creeping up. I'm a shadow of my former self. But
I'll tell you what, mate, you're still sporting the Bait Tech t-shirt beautifully. Look, slightly tanned.
I could be in the catalogue, actually, couldn't I?
You could, actually. You could. Yeah, I think, you know, a little bit like an ageing Richard Gere, something like that.
An ageing Richard Gere?
Yeah. Ageing, not Asian.
I was going to say more like ageing Richard Gere.
Beautiful cast. I
know, it's a thing of beauty, isn't it? Anyway, but I think this is, so what we've done here, we're going very, very direct, very simple fishing, which you know I like. Simplicity is good for me, Tom.
And me. Can't handle much more than that, to be fair.
So we're incorporating the Fjuka into what we're doing, but we've just got hemp feed. We're just feeding hemp at the moment, and we're fishing a Fjuka on the hook. And I'm fishing this, my view on this, I'm fishing this how I would fish bread.
Right, okay.
I fish a lot of bread on this river. It's a very, you know, it's very bold. But the reason we're doing it is because the river's full of bleak.
Right, okay.
And you're trying to get, if I put a maggot on there, it would be getting held up by a bleak every cast.
Lovely.
But with a big positive bait, you can fish a big float, big rod, be very aggressive, make the middle of the river your own.
Yeah.
Take charge, Tom.
Take charge of the situation. Dominate.
Dominate.
You could, couldn't you?
You could, and you can see, you know, it's a decent fish. Now,
oh, decent fish, look at the size.
I can't believe the roach are loving it. I was expecting to catch some chub.
You're not swinging that.
I'm not swinging that.
You are not swinging that.
I'm not an animal, Tom. Look at that. How good's
Look
that?
at that for a roach. It's only my favourite fish in the whole world.
And you know, this year we've got an explosion of these.
An explosion of roach. Gorgeous. Gorgeous roach.
Right.
So I must say, it's one thing that confuses me about rivers as vast and prolific as this. You actually have to be quite selective, don't you? You know, you can't just say, you know what, I'm going to chuck ground bait and maggots at 5 metres, because the likelihood is you're going to catch a million small fish and weigh nowhere near as much as you would do doing something like this.
It does bring, I mean, it's not just like, you know, the difference with this venue is you go to a lot of places, you know, we know there's a lot of venues that get good in the winter, you know, town centres in particular, you know, on rivers. I know the Welland is one, and I think the Old Neen and places like that. The town centre can be really good, and there's a lot of fish head to those places, and it's like a baggot. But what the difference you've got here is the variety of species. So we're fishing predominantly really for chublets, I'm thinking, with this. This is how I'd fish bred for chublets. I missed that one. Bred for chublets, but ultimately you've got the roach, you've got perch. There's an abundance of perch here, dace and bleak, and some bigger chub and barbel, you know. But ultimately for your running line work, you've got so many choices, so many species and so many choices. And it really is, you know, you can get lost in it. There's no two ways about it. But this sort of fishing, being so sort of being able to target the fish and fish with, you know, big baits, big hooks, very bold approach. It's what ultimately wins matches, Tom. You know, it's.
So let's focus on the bollo for a little while then, because obviously we've opted to fish that today. Yes, we've got this rod to test, but I'm guessing, Dave, if you were sort of, you know, pleasure fishing here and looking to be selective and fish down the middle of the river, that'd be your choice. Yeah,
you've got to pick. Everything's got to be right balanced. So 16-foot rod is a great length.
That was a lovely
that flew under, didn't it? Might come a bit shallower in a minute, Tom. I think they're coming up.
Are they?
Yeah. But yeah, so a 16-foot rod, you know, great length. I'd be using me 17, but 16. I probably wouldn't want to use a 15-foot rod, you know, but I think 16's a really good length. They're very usable, as pre-mentioned, you know, for an aging man like myself. You know, it doesn't get any easier, Tom. And so 16-foot rod. We've got an 018 main line, we've got an 8 gram bollo on, which again I might fish if I was fishing maggots or fishing a little bit more delicately for roach and stuff. I'd be perhaps fishing a 6 gram if the wind allowed. But with this, it's positive, you know, the fish you're fishing for are going to drag an 8 gram bollo over. You know, we're fishing in 10 foot of water out there. It's not
shallow, is it?
No, so it doesn't, you know, if something touches the bait, the float's going to fly under.
Yes.
Like that. Just wondering how what I'm wondering at the moment, though, I'm using these Fjukas for the first time and I'm finding different ways to hook them. It's actually, you know, we'll talk in more depth about it, but at the moment I'm wondering, because I'm missing a couple of bites, am I hooking them right or whatever? So this is going to be the interesting part for me, is getting into the session and seeing how we make it so as that every time that float goes under, you come back with a fish.
Yes.
Which is ultimately
the aim of the game.
What this is about, especially on this river, because it's not, you know, there are days when it's hard, but when it's like this, you've just got to catch.
Yeah,
you
don't want any quiet spells, I'm guessing, do you?
No.
And let's be honest, I mean, we've been fishing for what? Half an hour now, you've had 5 chublets, 2 roach. They're probably going to weigh over 5 pounds, as daft as it sounds, or certainly close to, aren't they? They're all really good fish.
Putting a weight together and catching fish.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you just, obviously, feeding slightly downstream, casting back dead down the middle there, slightly past maybe?
Yeah, just giving yourself, just going far enough that when you do your first mend, you just draw it, you know, you might draw it back a foot or so, but it's on your line, you know, you're always better going that bit further so that you come, you know, so when you do a mend, especially in windier conditions, you might have to go a bit further. And the other key as well is fishing slightly downstream yourself, because it's a big float, 8 gram, it goes in, it goes down, and it settles and it's fishing. Yeah. So you don't want to be putting it up there, because you're gonna have to wait 30 seconds before it gets to your sort of your hot spot.
Yes.
Apparently I'm not allowed to call it a killing zone anymore.
Why not?
Don't know.
Is that something to do with the...
PC, something, I don't know, killing zone.
Really?
It's not politically correct. But
Rory, of course, coined the beautiful phrase that has forever been immortalised on the video we did, the sweet spot.
Which the sweet spot.
I did particularly enjoy. I must admit, it's been a few months, Dave, since I've personally found the sweet spot.
Months?
In any context. I can imagine for a man of your age, it'll be maybe even longer than that. I'm actually going to sneak a few Fjukas in here as well.
Tom,
I feel like...
I think you're going too far with your insults now. I'm still virile, you know.
Are you? Oh, there's a great word.
Now look at that. I mean, it doesn't get more potent than that, does it, Tom?
Oh, no. No. No, you've really driven that home there, Dave, haven't you? penetrated with with bigger.
Before we go to innuendo, I like your term you use, sink the steel.
Yes.
I mean, it's a bit brutal, but it does sort of tell the story.
A chublet.
Little chublet, man.
Top lip.
A little greedy. But they're, you're going to build a way to those, aren't you? And what I'm trying to do here, Tom, if I'm in a match or if I'm pleasure fishing, whatever, I want to catch one every chuck. I'm not being greedy. that's how, as an angler,
as we think. Yeah, we're not greedy. We're just
that's it. Because there's lots of different adages you can use, but ultimately, if you can catch a fish every cast, it doesn't matter how quickly you do it.
Yes.
You might be a bit of a plodder or something. It might take you a while to rehook and cast out, but if you do that every cast, at the end of the match, you're going to put a weight on the scales.
Absolutely.
And
always come back with a fish, as Big Al famously said to me years ago.
Would he say it like that though?
Always come back with a fish.
That's
my best
more
effort.
like it. Yeah, that's not bad actually, Tom. I quite like your Big Al.
It looks to me, Dave, like the rod is absolutely perfect. It's casting that heavy float at the required distance. And say that's the number one, so it's the softest one in the range, isn't it? But what's that?
I've caught a leaf.
I thought you got a cruise ship. I thought he's done really well here.
That time of year, innit, Tom, eh? Would you believe it?
Oh. You're branching out into new forms of comedy. I'll give you some stick for that kind of joke, pal. I'll pull any trees up you today.
Oh dear.
I'm quite twigged on, have you, what I'm doing?
You've got me trying to think of things to come back when I can't, so.
Barking up the wrong tree. Oh. Back to the rod.
Yeah. So,
beautiful.
Right, so this is, so going back to the Cadence thing with the rods. Obviously the rods are numbered.
Oh, that one, Pat sent you a text, didn't it?
I've got tennis elbow, did I not tell you?
Oh, excuses are coming out now.
Yeah.
Tennis elbow.
Bait's still on though, I have to say. So, yeah. So obviously we've talked about this before, how the rods are numbered. So the bend of the rods would always be the same. The same cadence. Cadence is a word that describes a bend in something, isn't it? Did you know that?
You told me that before once.
Did I bore you with that fact? I like to educate you, Tom, even though you're quite an educated man.
Every day with you is an education. The number of times I've come back from a filming day when we've done the review and say, well, that's taught me a lesson. You won't believe.
So yeah, the bends are the same and the rods, it's just the power of the rods that changes. So I'm expecting on a number one rod this to be quite soft. However, so far, I mean, first of all, the action of the rod is allowing this fast strike, which I'll be honest is not as fast as it normally is because I'm injured, but yeah, the action's seems good.
Yeah.
I swung a chub before, which was probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 ounce. So there was no problem with that. So I'm not seeing. I'd like to see it with a nice, with one of these bigger chub.
Yeah.
And just see what it bends like with that, getting some speed. But what I will say is we've caught a couple of roach. All right, I'm fishing a big hook.
Yeah.
But we've caught a couple of roach and they've been hooked well and it's played them. They've not come off. And it's very usable. I'd love to know. I don't know if do they do the full range, the 1, 2, 3 in this range, or is that plans to come?
They certainly do a number 2. I'm not sure about a number 3, but
number 3 would be a beast.
Yeah.
But number 2 would probably be like, if you were really, like sometimes on here you can really ramp it up. You'd be catching on bread or whatever, catching chublets a pound, and you can
really.
Yeah.
That's sort of more in the middle of winter when it's freezing
when they shoal a bit tighter. Yeah, and you're really laying into them and catching them at speed and swinging fish that all right, you're sort of really up in the ante.
Definitely.
But this is usable. It doesn't seem to be. I think I could handle anything we hook on this.
I'm watching you fish and it looks like the guides are working, the line's rolling off beautifully. I think obviously we've talked about the handle on the Cadence rods a million times. I think it's lovely. I can't think how it could be improved. Secure reel fitting, sits well in the hand. Yeah. Nice blend of cork and neoprene, isn't it?
What's your thoughts on? I mean, it's not something I've really paid much attention to, but number of eyes on a rod, do you think it varies much from brand to brand? This seems to have more than enough on.
I was just going to say, yeah, to me, I think it does vary, and I think you get different, I've picked up the odd rod in the past and thought there's too many on, to be honest. With float rods, it's normally, I think there's too many than not enough, don't you?
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
A little tangle in the setup. It's come out.
Yeah,
Bounced out.
Bounced out. That's perhaps why we didn't have a bite that cast.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
That's what I'm sticking to anyway. So we've got yeah. So the setup for me is perfect. I'd say I do like a 16-foot rod. And joking aside, I think as I get older, I can probably see me trying to fish 16s more than 17.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously, to those who don't know, you know, length of rod. You'd probably choose to use a longer rod, a 16 or 17-foot rod, A, because the water might be a bit deeper and it's easier to dig, but also it just gives you more line control, doesn't it, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the, you know, that's half the battle, isn't it? Is making sure, you know, whatever it is, you're using the tools that are going to make your float go through, and the further out you go in the river, the harder that is. I remember, you know, I can remember the heady days when before long rods, you know, and remember, you know, we used to fish methods like this.
Yeah.
Not so much bolo. Bolo was something that came in very heavily in the 90s, wasn't it? But we used to fish Avon floats and big stick floats.
Oh, that was lovely.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Lovely.
And but we used to do it with 13-foot rods. And when you think back now, and in all fairness, it was Hadrian Whittle who said to me years ago, I think I won a match on here.
Yeah.
Whatever weight, and you know, had a nice day fishing.
Another roach.
I'm going to net that, Tom. Get me the net. It's roach, you know. You've got to be a bit.
A little bit of respect.
So it's, yeah.
Okay.
On there.
Focus still on it.
And he said he paid me a nice compliment and said I'd fish well, which, you know, always means a lot from your peers. But
it don't come often from Hadrian, does it?
No, it doesn't. But he said you'll catch a lot more if you get some. You can buy yourself some longer rods. And I was a bit tight with it. You know, those days I was still, you know, out drinking a lot and, you know,
not you,
tearing up the town,
womanising, no doubt.
Well, yeah. No, I never did any of that, Tom. No, I was, you know, I was quite a quiet young chap.
I can believe this. I don't know.
And so I didn't spend a lot of money on my fishing kit back then. I just used to get by. And in all fairness to me, I still went fishing every week. You know, I didn't have any breaks from fishing. I didn't stop fishing because I was boozing. But I didn't spend a lot of money on my equipment. And so I remember the first long rod I bought was a Shakespeare Annex, and it was like an 1820. But my old mate Woody in the shop, he made up like a dolly butt for them,
right,
that you could fit into the the third section, and it made it 16 foot.
Right.
And I used that rod for a number of years and caught God knows how many fish, God knows how many matches with it. Yeah. And just loved it. But that was my first experience of a 16-foot rod, you know, and I thought it was a good length, you know. But going back to the point is, you know, years ago we were fishing with 13-foot rods, and now it's just, now we're getting them lined up. Now it's just, you couldn't be without them, could you? No. And now we're using bolo rods, and I think a pike just followed that then.
Look at it, yeah, it's coming in. Look at this. Because it's a pike size one, isn't it? It's the smallest one of the day.
Yeah.
Lost interest.
That chub doesn't know how kind we've been to it there. We've saved it, haven't we?
Well, yeah. Must have been a big old pike. I think a small pike could have had that, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't.
Little Jack would have snaffled that.
Yeah, them big ones can move at speed.
So I think you should catch one more and let me have a go with this lovely rod.
I forgot you might want to go have a go, don't you?
You can do this every day. Me, I've had to travel 3 hours cross country.
From up the north.
And I've heard you bought a stove here, so we can even have a cup of tea for the next
I'll
section.
make you a cup of tea. I will.
Oh, what a guy.
What a lovely day, eh? I love October. It's always still quite warm, isn't it? You know, it's not hot, but it's more than comfortable. So,
it might surprise you to know that I'm a very cultured individual. And I did actually do, my degree was in English, and we did do English literature as quite a big part of it. And old Keats, it might have been Wordsworth, one of them sort of guys, they said about autumn, they said, seasons of mist and mellow fruitfulness. And I think he wrote a poem actually about an abbey on the Wye, just down there, Tintern Abbey. And we're reading about it and thinking, it sounds nice there. And here we are.
I don't mean to disappoint you, but Tintern Abbey is just a derelict old stone bit. But
is it?
It probably was a glorious place back in the day. Like.
Long time ago, them poets were knocking about, mate.
I never met any of them.
I'm surprised.
Before you get your ageist joking again.
I'm surprised.
Right, come on, you're going to have a go, because I'm not... I'm going to have one more cast.
Catch me one more, and then we'll have a brew.
All right, okay.
Because you've just selected a particularly small chub. I feel like, what could we hook here? Chub, size-wise chub.
So there's some big ones in here. I had one in a match last week, which was like £4.5.
Oh.
Nice bonus that, Tom, you know.
Was that on the inside or out there?
Yeah, that was fishing whip. But yeah, there's those fish, but there's an abundance of like anything from 4 ounces to £2, you know. And what you find as it goes colder, they move into the stretch more. You know, they come here stronger and they move here more and more. And
yeah,
you know, to probably less pegs that you'll catch them on, but you know, they're certainly the weights go up as it gets colder.
Well,
you've just got so many choices. That's the thing. You could be fishing for roach, chub, whatever.
Didn't Adrian have £70 of bleak the other day?
Yeah.
£70 of bleak.
He's
so you could do that on a whip, short whip. Couldn't you?
He's welcome to that, by the way.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to tell you folks, I am actually coming on the festival here in a couple of weeks.
Bleak festival, eh? Can you believe I've let you in? After
can't believe it.
All these years you've been bugging me to let you in, and I've managed to get you a place. And it's going to have 3 days of this, Tom.
I have been on the waiting list for quite some time, to be fair.
Well,
I can't wait.
I had to give in eventually. But
yeah, it'll be good. A bit of northern charm in the town. Do you think the Barrels pub's ready for me?
Yeah, they've dealt with much worse than you, Tom. I assure you. You are a kitten compared to some of the things.
I've been called some things.
Right, come on. Oh, I missed it, Tom.
I'm going to prime it for next time for you, mate. Might actually prime the line you're fishing as well.
This line's tangling up as well.
Tangling on the line? Bless you. That is a great reel, by the way.
You're going to hate my reels, aren't you? I use these out of habit. I've had them for years. I love them. I like the way they balance a rod. But everyone else hates them. And I don't care.
You're your own man. And that's what I've always respected and admired about you. From the first time we met on the banks of this very river, I believe.
Is that when we did do an article? That was the first time we met, was it?
Yeah, by Belmont. And I got the vision of the River Wye, and I thought, God, it looks amazing. It's going to be gorgeous. And to be fair, where we went in the afternoon was, but then we went to this little council estate with these railings, and I had to climb over the railings, and yeah,
caught some fish though.
Got me some perch, didn't you?
I'll tell you, it was a few years ago that Tom. I'll tell you what, you were young and handsome then.
I was a slip of a lad. Can you be a slip of a lad?
I don't know.
That's the only reason why not.
Slip of something. Slip of the tongue with you.
Oh!
Sorry, I was looking at something else then. I noticed my line's twisting up. This line's a bit old, Tom. I didn't prepare properly for you.
Well, you're going to catch one more in a minute, and then great cup of tea, and I can have a go. We can't give up now, Dave. We've come so far.
No, it's interesting. We've been chatting away, and I haven't really been thinking about what we're doing. But I'm thinking how we're going to turn this into. Well, in all fairness, Tom, once you get the rod in your hand, that's when the magic will happen, won't it?
So Dave, we've decided to have a cup of tea, and you have suggested a tactical change.
Well, I felt that considering the amount of fish in the stretch, we were getting bites and we caught some fish, but I didn't feel like we were quite getting as many as we should. Oh, I should have missed that, wasn't it? And I figured we're feeding hemp, but fishing a completely different bait. Now, when I fish like this with bread, bread's my favourite way, bread and bunches of maggots.
Yeah.
I'm feeding ground bait, but I always put a bit of bread in my ground bait. You know, and I'm feeding.
As in like liquidised bread?
Liquidised bread, yeah, not too much, because it's quite potent stuff, you know, Tom. That
it is. It bloody is.
So I do that. So I'm thinking, well, we're not feeding what we're fishing. You know, we did flick a few of the 5 mils out there. So then you came up with the absolute genius to suggest that you've got some. Well, are we calling these micros? I mean,
they're more like they're called Fjuka micros, yeah.
But they're like about 3 mil, were they? Something like that?
Yeah, 3 mil.
And they fire out there. You can fire them as far as we want, to halfway, which is the line we're fishing.
Yeah.
We've put a few pouchfuls in, and it's transformed it, hasn't it?
It has. It's
which is
oh yeah, look at that. Look, Dave, is that not what life is all about?
I'll tell you what, it's someone would say it's better than sex, but I don't know. You know, you tell me, Tom.
I think it absolutely is better than sex, because it always hurts me bum when I have sex these days. Anyway, is that a lovely looking?
Look at that, another chubbler. But the thing is now, we've got them lined up. We've got them in one place, and it just comes down to the simplicity of the fact that we're fishing what we're feeding.
Yes.
Life doesn't get any simpler than that, does it?
It doesn't. It's just sublime, to be fair.
And I've found in the last half hour I've been fishing these bigger, putting a bigger bait, because I thought about it. If I was fishing bread, I'd be fishing a bait a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, bread just swells up in water, doesn't it? So I thought, well, surely we can get away with a bigger bait. But now we're just in a lovely rhythm where we're just casting, feeding, striking, bagging.
Yes, yes, yes. All true. And I definitely feel like it's nearly my go. How do you feel about that?
I hadn't had that feeling, see?
Well, I cannot offer an honest opinion on that rod if I don't have a go with it, pal. It's just
true.
not
I know
possible.
I'm being selfish, but it's nice. It's been nice to work at it, and you know, because I do spend a bit of time here, Tom. You know, so I know what should be happening.
Yes.
And now we are seeing.
You've definitely sorted that out. It was an instant, and it's interesting. I mean, we'll talk about this more in a little while, but you know, with the Fjuka bait, the thing is, obviously it's a new bait, it's a new concept. People have to fit it into their fishing, into how they fish. It's got loads of advantages, which we'll talk about, as I said again later. But what you've done there is absolutely typical and key to what people need to do. It's just playing about with the stuff, finding out what works, you know?
That's it. I can see that it would, you know, like I say, different scenarios require different things, and it is a versatile bait in that sense. I will talk, when you get on the bottom, I'm going to ask you some quite searching questions.
Oh yeah, I'm used to it with you.
I want to give you, you know, I'll give you an honest opinion as well of what I've found so far, of, you know, I suppose what my view was of the bait, and, you know, what today has done in my eyes for it. But also, you know, there's some perhaps we can sort of dispel a few myths about it.
Oh, that was lovely. That was bloody lovely.
But yeah, just sort of, you know, there's a few of the things I've heard, little bits and pieces that people have said, you know, without probably having the full facts, and I think it's worth discussing it, because I know it's in a project that you're very much involved with, and I know you, Tom, you don't get involved with bad projects, do you?
I try not to, mate.
Because you're sat here with me now. I mean,
exactly.
Look at that. That's almost too big to swing.
That's lovely. Oh,
look at that.
Oh,
I mean,
that's a lovely chub, isn't it? Absolutely lovely. Cracking cup of tea as well, pal, by the way. So drop that in the net, and before I have a go, and believe me, guys, I'm dying to have a go, but before I do, I want you to come and have a look what's in the bag.
Oh, let's do
come
that.
On.
Yeah,
let's have a gander. So Dave, you've treated me the last few times we've been out with your choices of what's in the bag, and it's been a magnificent bag as well,
yes,
I might say so. Now, I haven't skimped on the bag. It might look like a carrier bag, but this is no ordinary carrier bag. This is legs of bromyard.
This is what you brought our dinner in today.
Yeah.
That's as good as you can do. I bring you Elvis, I bring you Tommy Shelby, and you bring me legs.
Come on, have a dip in there.
Right,
Draw me a peg.
This better be good, mine. There's not much in here. What is it? It's like a draw for a match.
There you are.
LDAA, what's that? Ladies District?
Lincoln and District Angling Association, complimentary.
Complimentary?
Yeah, they were
moving the right circle.
They were very complimentary.
So this is an angling club, yeah. Oh right, yeah. So this is your membership card. Oh, and this is Norwich and District. Yeah. You've got two.
That one was less complimentary. I had to pay for that one.
But that hurt, didn't it?
And they slagged me off.
Oh really?
No, it's complimentary.
Really?
No, they didn't really slag me off.
No.
You know, it's
a matter of time though, isn't it? Anyway, so you've given me two membership cards, right? I can't even think where you're going with this, so what's your point?
My point is, this country is littered with great angling associations. The water we're on today, for example, Hereford and District, great club, great association.
Old club's been here.
Old club.
Yeah.
And Norwich and District, you know, run by some fantastic people. Tony Gibbons is the guy who I know who does so much for that club, clearing waters, you know, running matches and events. Lincoln and District, likewise. Just a brilliant set of people behind it who do a lot of work for it. And my question to you for this week's debate is the association, clubs and associations, are they under threat by commercial fisheries and private stretchers and syndicates, or do you think with the new influx of anglers we've had since COVID, these offer better value to anglers than ever before, and therefore we're going to see a long and healthy future?
Well, I can only speak, the only association I've ever been involved with is, right, as you say, Hereford District Angler Association. And I can only, from the figures I know, this club has got more members than it's ever had. Probably too many, if I'm honest.
That's good to hear.
I'd actually like to see a cap on it, and that might sound a bit selfish, but you've got to remember that there's only so much water for so many anglers. And if you add 1,000 members to day tickets as well, which are openly, the day tickets can fish the same stretches that, it's actually in danger of becoming too busy, which I believe is partly to the situation we find ourselves in now, more people on the banks, which is great, brilliant, but so I don't feel that this club in particular is under threat. You are seeing more private ownership on the river, or private rental or whatever, we have a big organisation on the river, the Wyesk Foundation. They control a lot of the water on the river now, which is good because it's brought about new stretches. I can go and, there's so many stretches I could just buy a day ticket online tonight for, on the same morning you go and you can choose them. And it's made it accessible. The only trouble is do you get, that's expensive, that's like £25 a day ticket. This here, £10 a day ticket, I'm pretty sure from what you've had today. I
think it'd be more like £3 in it up north. It was. Yeah. I tell you what happened the other day. I was at Thorn, which is, I don't know whether it's Thorn and District that control that one on the Stainforth and Keeper Canal, one of the best canals in the country.
Oh, no, that's the Stainey.
We'll call it the Stainey. All right, carry on with the Stainey.
That's what you called it earlier.
Yeah, the Stainey. I was on there, and me and Jordan were on there, actually having a nice little pleasure fish, and the guy come down, he said, £6, please. And so I've given him £12. I thought I'd treat Jordan to a day ticket, and he looked at me gone out. He said, what are you doing? The two of us says £12. He said, no, it's £3 each. And the value you can get on these cards, I mean, even at £10 a day for this, it's some of the best fishing in the country.
Yeah, so, sorry, going back to your point, are they under threat? Possibly, because I think everything's under threat these days. Money talks.
They don't sing and dance and it don't walk though, does it?
No, but yeah, there's a danger that people with money will come in and sort of take, I mean, in this instance, this club obviously owns the water, they own the fishing rights, so that's not, the problems coming with access and things like that and getting to the water. So I don't see a danger there. I think there's no two ways about it, they're great value for money. You join these clubs, and I like, I like the fact that you've got a club that looks after the waters, and if anything happens, we've got bailiffs who are checking, and they do a brilliant job here. The bailiffs here are absolutely, not only have they stopped poaching from certain, like an influx of foreigners, we have a lot of agricultural workers here. I'm not going to say Eastern European because that's not fair. We just have a lot of foreign agricultural workers in this area because it's a rural area. And they don't understand the rules of our river, that you don't eat everything you catch. And they've done a brilliant job of addressing that.
Educating.
And as you saw today, we had a couple of guys walk past earlier who were clearly spoke with an accent of foreign climes, if you like. And they were so friendly, and they had all the gear.
Accent of foreign climes? They were from Worcester.
I thought they were from Doncaster, actually. But you know what I mean, there's that now, they've sort of integrated and they know the rules, and because the club has made the effort to speak to them in their mother tongue, is that the right word?
Yeah.
It seems overgun for that, but no, they sort of done Polish and Lithuanian and Eastern European sort of languages, so they can say, look, it's not okay to kill our fish, please join the club, this is your club. And they really, some of them are bailiffs now, so the bailiffs here have done a great job in that, but not just that as well. Like, we had a massive problem with predation from goosanders here. You used to come here and on a morning there'd be 40 goosanders up and down here hunting, like, just scaring the fish to death. And someone gave them a tip that these laser torches were, not like a laser pen, but a torch. And have you seen a cormorant or a goosander today? And there is so many fish here. The pike are here. Everything follows. The predation chain follows, but we haven't seen a predatory bird here today. No. And that's due to their hard work. They were getting here early in the morning, flashing the torches. I've gone off on a tangent here about.
No, you haven't. What
I'm saying is the beauty of, I find, association clubs is just.
It's love, isn't it? It's people who have a passion for fishing, have a passion for an area and care for it. And the two cards I've given you there, Lincoln and Norwich, that's what absolutely came across to me and why I was so proud to be a member of them both, I really hope, for fishing's sake, that, this is the future for a lot of our natural
I think so, and I think it's, like I say, it's a place to go. And I think the only thing I would say is I feel that clubs need to make sure they are up with the times. So this is all, if you look on the front of your card here in Norwich and District, the man you mentioned earlier, Mr. Gibbons, A. Gibbons, not Tony, A. Gibbons, that's Anthony, isn't it?
It is, that's his son.
So please address him by his proper term. But all these names, it looks very, clandestine and not it looks very old-fashioned. You know, it's a club card. You've got to have a card. You've got to have, and that's more modern. It's got a picture of you on it, ID card, this sort of thing. What I'm saying is danger, and I do see it a little bit with this club. It's this danger of sort of being stuck in their ways. And the problem is the threats that you talk about are coming from a modern audience. So you know you can find your waters and everything coming under attack for various reasons. But if you haven't got an up-to-date website and things like that where people can actually find out about your club and find out what you do. And also the other thing, the big bugbear of mine is we don't celebrate ourselves. We don't tell, well, this club does massive work here, and they go they cut the pathways to widen the path so that you don't get a rut of people pushing their barrows up, and they widen it, and the whole of the country, of the city can use that path. But we don't put signs up saying this was
supported and funded by HCA.
So I think we've got to be a bit shout a bit louder, and not just be that club that's tucked away with a committee. Committees are a good thing. But
and let's not forget, you are on the committee, aren't you, for HCA?
No, I'm not.
You're not anymore. You were, weren't you?
No, I've never been on the committee.
Have you never?
No.
I thought you were.
No. I come across like, you know what I mean? They won't have me. They won't have me. They won't take any of my suggestions.
No, I think you're right. We need to celebrate these associations.
Yeah.
We need to promote them, because to me, value for money wise, they represent the best thing for fishing.
No, and what I've just said there, it says on the bottom of here, find us on Facebook. Perfect. You've got to have that presence. You've got to let people know who you are and what you do and what you represent. And I think this is the safest way. This is the safest way to protect these waters and what have you.
Couldn't agree more.
And I have to say, this photograph on here. I mean, was that taken in about 1996?
That was actually taken only a few. It was this year that was taken, a few weeks ago. So before we begin,
lock up your daughters, eh? Look at that. It says expire underneath.
I've given you the wrong card. Actually, that's to the Bizarre Club, that isn't it?
Oh, right. So yeah, so that was a good one, Tom. But can you please up your bag game, because that was disappointing.
So here we have it. The Cadence 16-foot CR10 match number 1. And the first thing I thought when I put it together, it's light, isn't it?
Yeah, for 16 foot.
To say it's 16 foot, yeah.
Talking earlier about rods we used to use when I started, but they have, you forget what we take for granted now.
Yeah.
And that's 16 foot, you know, you just, yeah, and a lot of time you're used to using 13 foot rods, or even like 11, 12 for your commercial fishing.
Absolutely, yeah.
You'd think there'd be a massive goal, but it's very usable, isn't it?
It's very usable, it's very light, and one thing I've noticed with sort of cheaper rods, once you get past, 13 foot, is you start to get a little bit of wobble in like 1/3 to 2/3 of the way down. That, as you can see, it's absolutely stiff as a poker, really, isn't it? In the hand,
I bet you wobble when it comes to paying for them, don't you?
Well, that's not good. Don't know. I'm a Yorkshireman. What do you expect? Oh. Look, I'm that upset. I've tangled up when you mentioned paying.
So there you go. So that's the shakes you got. Cold sweat and everything.
I've got to ask you as well. What is this reel? It is.
Now this, I get to stick with my reel. These are what I call a Marmite reel.
Right. Okay? Why is that? Because they stick every 2 minutes.
You either love them or hate them. Now, I don't. To be honest with you, there's better reels in the market, but the reason I use them is I like the weight of them. I feel that they balance a longer rod beautifully, and I find it's just something. I'm just a creature of habit, Tom. It's old age, and I just don't want to change, And I use other reels when I'm guiding and stuff. I use a normal fixed spool reel, and I have no problem. And I could switch over tomorrow if I wanted, Tom, but I don't want to, and you're not going to force me.
Dave, I would never force you to do anything. You know that, mate. Well, the thing that I like is, I've got a gilly, haven't I? You stood there, you're talking about guiding, and
I'm feeding for you
as
well.
This is fantastic. Does life get any better?
No.
Tell you what, she's going down nice. What float is it, that?
So that's a DH angling Bollo number 3.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Thomas.
Sent me a text and everything, didn't it, that one?
Yeah, that's a DH number 3, so that's an 8 gram float. So like I say, you can get it when you're fishing like this, you can get away with a slightly, if you were fishing maggots out there, I'd probably be fishing a 6 gram, depending on the weather conditions.
Yeah.
But, or if you were fishing maybe a finer approach, for roach and stuff, and maybe if you're on like the 7 or something, you might be using a 6 gram or a 5 gram float. But with this, it's such bold fishing, you are really, those fish are dragging that float under. So it's a nice big float, nice big hook.
Nice big everything.
Yeah. and hopefully when it goes under, a nice big strike, Tom, which you're usually pretty good at, Tom.
Well,
I'm looking forward to
That's one thing I don't normally struggle with, isn't it?
Yeah, you usually are. Sometimes I have to calm you down, but I don't think you can strike too hard on this. I think.
This is music to my ears. One thing I've noticed since I've got on the box, and you know I'm not one to make excuses, especially when fishing with somebody who's older than me, but that stiff downstream wind's really started to appear since you stepped aside on it, since we had our cup of tea.
I don't think the wind's changed at all, Tom.
I think it's picked up considerably, and you know it as well.
No, I don't think it has.
Oh, beautiful.
You nailed that one, Tom.
About time, Dave, isn't it? 3 casts and no bites, you know what I mean?
It takes a while, doesn't it? You know, I've got them lined up for you, but I can't expect you just to take over that, you know.
To pick up the mantle. It's hard, isn't it, to sit in a master's chair? It really is.
It is, Tom. But,
however, this is a great fish. Look at this.
This is like, these are your bread and butter fish. You get, like I say, you can get these lined up and just look at that. It's 10 ounces.
Fantastic chublets. Look where it's
hooked.
hooked.
It's spewing up, look.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Look at all the white shit going everywhere.
What, the white one?
The white.
We don't swear on this programme, Tom.
No, the white substance. It's actually sensei, it's called.
Sensei?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
There we have it.
Right. Oh. So, Tom, Fjuka.
Fjuka.
Not a subject that you're shy about talking about.
No, I have been talking about it a lot lately. That is a fair
part of your life now. But go on then. So the Fjuka story. Tell me the story. Where did it start? David Preston for a start. It
starts with David Preston, as you quite rightly say. So back in 2014, he sold Preston Innovations for rather a lot of money to a big American corporation, and that's still growing and improving as the great brand it is. Yeah. But it freed David up to do other things. And oh, see that, Dave? Oh,
I did see. I saw you miss a bite.
That freed David up to do other things, and one of those things he did in his little sabbatical, as you might call it, is he went to Japan. And he was in Japan, and the bait's still beautifully on there. And while he was in Japan, he saw an old man fishing with his grandson, with some paste type bait. A bit like Fjuka, I think, basically. And it inspired him, really. He just saw it and thought how simple it looked, you know. Old man, kid. Oh, right on the, see that? What's happening?
They're on the bait now, Tom. We might have to come shallow, you know, they're getting on it that well. We might have to come shallow.
They're chomping, aren't they? He thought to himself, how simple and how nice it was to see basically 2 people sharing fishing together with a simple rod, simple pole and a bag of bait. It's a simplicity, isn't it?
A bit like me and you.
Absolutely. Well, we're very simple, aren't we? But,
I'm big in Japan as well.
Are you?
Yeah, that's what they say.
I can believe it, actually.
Big in Japan, yeah.
I can believe it.
That's all right, no, go on. So
you walk like an Egyptian as well. So basically, the thing that inspired him was the simplicity of it. And he said, obviously Preston Innovations, a lot of what he did there was inventing things to make match anglers, specimen anglers more effective on the bank, but it also made fishing a lot more complicated. So, you know, when we go match fishing, we take loads of gear, seat box, poles, top kits, elastics, everything, don't we? It's a very complicated business. And David, I think, worried that maybe all that stuff, all that complexity, all that gubbins, as he calls it, might actually be putting anglers off a little bit. So he wanted to invent something that basically made it dead simple and easy to go fishing. So you could pick up a bag of bait and just go. That's the basic idea of it.
Right.
You can hook it, you can feed it. You might say, oh, you can do that with a tin of corn, you can do that with a pound of maggots, which is of course true, but I think Fjuka's a bit more versatile than them two.
So just all right then, quick question on that one then. Related to that, does Fjuka go off when you've opened the bag?
It doesn't go off, it dries out. You have to keep it covered, because you might do bread. Imagine like a slice of bread.
Yeah, so if you keep it sealed, you could keep it for months.
Yes, years. Absolutely years.
Right, okay, so there you go. There's a big difference between meat and corn. Okay. So that's the story of how it started, and obviously he's a chap who's been in, you know, who knows how to get things done. Yeah. Who gets things from the idea to the shop. Absolutely. Which he's done, and we've got, you know, and obviously everything's been packaged and done in a very good way, doesn't it? It does look the part. I've got to be honest. And,
so there's 2 product lines to start. 2-in-1 bait which you hold in there, that's a simple. I'd say that's the sort of keystone product in that that's the one that, you know, that somebody could pick up, take a packet of that. It's £1.99 RRP. That's it. Oh, wow, Dave.
Sailed on.
I'm trying to talk and fish. It's no good.
No, it's not working, is it?
It's
anyway,
you know, it's £1.99 for that, you know, for a bag of standard 5mm 2-in-1. So it's really cheap.
I thought it was £2, see.
Well, I suppose around here it would be. You're a bit more expensive than up north. I can imagine them putting at least a penny on everything.
Yeah.
No, you're quite right. It is cheap and it catches all species of fish. So that's the story behind it, and it's at its simplest level.
Okay, so what is it? What's in it, Tom?
Well, it's all pretty much the same basic recipe with a few slight tweaks and adjustments for the different products in the range. So the best thing I can compare it to a non-angler would be Play-Doh. It's very much like Play-Doh in consistency. So you can mould it, you can shape it, you can hook it directly and it stays on the hook. But it's not too hard that the hook doesn't pull through it. And that goes back to David's original idea that basically it's made so that little Joe Smith with his mum, who goes into a tackle shop and picks them up, can go fishing, they can put it on the hook, it stays on the hook dead easy, they can feed a bit, and it appeals to every species of fish. In a nutshell, that's Fjuka.
Okay, so what's in it? What is it made of then?
Well, it's
Or
not
is that
quite.
secret? Is it secret,
It's not a
Tom?
secret. I'll be honest. I don't exactly know everything that goes in it. What I can tell you is it's.
Is it like a bit like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory?
a
Is
little
it that
bit
sort of
like-
thing? Is
yeah,
it like the secret to the everlasting gobstopper?
It is a bit like that. Yeah. Well, I've got a fish on here or not. It's just a float dragging in a strange way.
What's
So basically, it's like bread type ingredients.
Yeah, it's not like fish meal or anything
No,
like that.
no,
There's
it's
none of that.
bread
It's not
type
like a pellet.
ingredients.
It's not a pellet, is it? Let's get that straight.
It's not a pellet, and that's why you can catch. You know, I've caught big bags of roach on it. I've caught carp. I've caught F1s. I've caught bream. Today we've caught chub on it. You know, it does appeal to every species of fish. The basic attractant in it, it's called sensei, which is they call it a fish accelerant. Basically, the idea is it makes fish feed quick. You know,
Sensei sounds quite Japanese.
Well, yeah. I don't know whether that was inspired by what David saw in that workshop or not. But as I said, look, I'm a realist. I'm a match angler myself. I know there's no such thing as the perfect bait. There's not one bait out there that you can put on the hook and it's a miracle bait and it'll transform your catch. And Fjuka certainly isn't a miracle bait, but it does catch fish.
That's the important thing. I think anybody who, you know, and in all fairness, Dave Preston's not someone to insult the intelligence of the anglers and suggest that it was a miracle bait. You know, it's just a new bait, a new type of bait, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
I think that was something that became. No one ever said it was, and it was never tried to be marketed that way.
Yes.
It's more about its usability. It catches fish and usability. So I get that, and we say whatever's in it is not fish meal. Would bread based? Would that be a possibility?
Yeah,
like almost or cereal based or something like
it's
that.
bread. I think it's not made from bread, but it's very similar.
Yeah,
in terms
like
of ingredients to bread. Yeah, it is. And as I said, you know, the thing is, there's loads of great baits out there that work really well. What Fjuka has tried to do, what David's tried to do with Fjuka, is make something that's easy for anybody to use, that catches fish. And I think for match anglers, it's got a few really good applications. This, I mean, you've spotted a little niche on the wire where it may or may not be brilliant when it fills up with chub. We've proved today you can catch chub on it.
Yeah.
Oh, how did that, Dave? What's going off?
So some of us can catch chub on it.
Yeah, you can catch chub on it, can't you?
No, that's what I mean. I think because, you know, from looking from the outside in, you know, I never had anything to do with it, and I think there was quite a lot of chat when these things come out, and people think you're trying to, you know, pull the wool over people's eyes with it's like some miracle bait. There was never any suggestion of that, but I think it's probably you know, it was almost like there was a bit of you know, the match angling fraternity were almost like sort of, as they quite often are, you know, nervous of it or you know, sort of dismissive of it, where actually that was, like you say, that the ethos was about it's a fishing bait, but you know, the target audience wasn't necessarily match fishing. It was just anglers who want the thing. And but what you'll find, you know, what we found here, I looked at this, you know, when we talked about it, and I thought, actually, you know, from what I've seen on this river the last few weeks, and the way people are having to fish bigger baits to get through the bleak, to get at these chub and roach and all these other fish that are here, I thought it might work, and it's proved today it does work, and it's actually, you know, it's very usable. So, like I say, in normal circumstances, I'd be fishing bread an occasional bunch of maggots if the bleak allowed.
Yeah.
And we tried, you know, I've set it up how I thought, you know, you might see it differently now having fish, you might see a different application with it, but this was how I'd sort of fish follow on this river to sort of target these chublets, and I fished it in a very similar way to how I would bread. And it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does, it works. There's no two ways about it. It's called roach and chub.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, in terms of adopting it into match fishing, and I'm talking about match fishing because I think, you know, pleasure anglers are much more likely to try things, and they'll soon find out. Put a piece on, you'll find out it works. It's brilliant. Match anglers, it's difficult because let's face it, we all know baits that work and bait combinations that work. Applications I've found for it in match fishing, the neons are brilliant for dobbing in winter, carp and F1s. Yeah. Not the be all in it. I still take bread, I still take corn and corn skins because I think that, you know, it's not right every time. No. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's brilliant neons. Yeah. Hemp fishing, so you can put a black piece of the micro on a hook when you're hemp fishing. Much quicker, much easier than a piece of hemp.
I'll bet.
But again, there's days when it's, you know, when it's clear, like the Avon, for example, at Evesham.
Yeah.
Like there, on venues where it's hard and clear, hemp on the hook is definitely better than Fjuka. But other times, I've been to March, I've been to Burton Joyce, I've caught shed loads, putting a piece of black Fjuka on the hook and loose feeding hemp because it's quicker. You're always striking through it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, so, and obviously this is another application. So I think it's still quite new, Dave, as well, isn't it? All the time we're finding new applications for it.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's not until you go and specifically do things like this where you're actually looking to fish it in a certain way, rather than, you know, because obviously you've got the confidence that it catches fish. You know, I've not. Yes. You know, I've not caught fish on it. I've not fished it before. So, but the idea and everything seemed right for this. So now we've done it. Like I say, you can go. Ooh, that was a nice little dip.
A little dip, wasn't it? Gone a bit iffy though, hasn't it? Do you think it's the rising river that's doing it, or?
Well, it's not flying up, but it's doing.
I foul up one.
I think you caught a leaf actually.
It's not a big leaf that was.
Yeah, no, it's just river's changing a bit at the moment. I think these, and there's so many places for these fish to go. They're very sort of active this time of year. They're up and down the river and moving around, and they won't probably stay with you all day. But it's very, like I say, it's very aggressive fishing when it's like this. You putting lots of bait in and hammering them, and it's been interesting how we've sort of phased out. I'm still putting a bit of hemp in now, but we've started putting those 3 mils in. We've just had a little spell of just feeding 5 mils, been really positive with it. And I bet there's days when, you know, feeding the big uns, what size is that? Is that a 10 mil those?
Yeah, the fat boys are 10 mils.
Fat boys, they are actually called fat boys, aren't they? Just so we're not thinking.
They are called fat boys.
Fat boys. Fat boys.
Oh, one thing you will find with the Fjuka bait is no shortage of creativity when it comes to the marketing. No. And I can't take, well, I can take a bit of credit for it, but not all the credit for that, because there's 2 brilliant people on the team there. Well, 3 if you count Jack, you know, the cameraman. You've got to include him.
We don't talk about Jack. Jack's just in the background. We don't.
Bless him.
He just makes you look good.
He does, doesn't he?
Which in all fairness, he deserves an award for.
So let me ask you. I mean, you know, you've come here today. You've used it for the first time for this river. Oh, have we actually got one on camera? We've lost one on camera. We had one on camera.
Bumped it. You bumped it. That was a nice bite. That felt like a decent fish as well. It looked like a decent fish.
I think it was. It was a chub.
Come on, Tom. Sort it out.
Come on, Dave.
So what were you going to ask me something? Go on.
I was going to ask you.
I'll come here today. I have come here today.
You're here. There's no denying that.
There's no denying it.
You've tried Fjuka on your river for the first time. What do you think of it?
Right. So this is. I say the first time I've thought about it as an application, as a possible to bring into my match fishing. I've always been a bread man on this river. You know, I fish when there's chublets in the river. I fish bread, and I can fish bread very quickly. And you know, I like the way that I can incorporate bread into my ground bait and things like that. And then maggots with that. But there is a trend on this river at the moment of using meat and corn. And you know me, Tom, I don't need an excuse to use meat. You know, no. I like a bit of meat.
You like a bit of meat?
But I don't like using it on this. I don't like using it because on those days when there's
a big one,
when you've got a bad wind. What are you thinking, Tom?
You've got bad wind?
No, not when that's every day with you. On those days when you've got bad downstream and you're having to cast a bit harder or something like that, meat comes off, you know, it's not the perfect hook bait. And I've heard people using different substitute baits and what have you and that. Well, this fits perfectly into that. Frankly, I'd probably rather fish this than meat or corn for this particular application.
Yes.
So I can see something here. The trouble is I haven't yet gone down the route where I've had to fish meaty
Yeah,
prawn on
well,
the
not
morrow.
early enough on, so I suppose.
Bread would be my first thing, but I can see what I've noticed with this. It's funny actually, because it's like you say, that the whole idea of the bait is that it's usable and you can do what you want. You can mould it into shapes. You
Yes.
can mould it into the shape of the maggot. We haven't done that yet. Shaped it in the shape
Oh,
of a
I
maggot.
can do that. I can
we
do
that?
anything
Should we
like
put a double Fjuka on like it's a
Oh,
maggot?
could do.
I don't think it makes
David
a
would love
difference if I'm
that.
honest, but we'll try it. I think they'll have it anyway.
I do. I think it's.
But it's oh Tom.
That's a bit shallow. That same spot as last time, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I like it's. We've used different sizes, and yeah, I like the idea of it, and I like the way it's. It was staying on the hook, so you've got to find that balance.
Yes.
Right, between it staying on the hook and then it affecting your penetration of the hook in the fish's mouth.
Yes. And you did a nice little thing which I'm now copying, where you basically flattened one of the fat boys and then hooked it through the side, didn't you? So you've got all your point exposed.
So it's like a disc of bread or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very clever way of doing it, to be fair.
Did you also notice how I got the word penetration in there and you didn't make a single innuendo joke about it?
Well,
So you're slacking, mate.
it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You slipped it in there, didn't you, Dave?
There you go, see. There you go, see.
Drove the point home, didn't you,
I
pal?
did. So yeah, so it's interesting. I actually think I will be carrying some of these with me. I shall be robbing some off you, and I think they'll be good to try. I think personally, if it was me, I'd probably still start on bread because that's always been my way.
Yeah.
But if it gets to a stage where bread is not not effective, or I want to keep a bait on the hook, or or if this just becomes more effective. What I really liked, and this was really good, was the micros, as you call them. I'd say they're 3 mils. They're micros. The way I feed these now, and these just go out lovely mid-river. They make a nice noise. Yeah. And I like that, and that's. Noise is everything, isn't it? It's not always about just what you're feeding; it's the noise it's making when it's going in, and I think that'll get them going. And I like the, it's like feeding hemp, but actually easier to feed than feed. Hemp is very, odd sizes, odd shapes. It's not really a piece of hemp is not a very aerodynamic bait, is it?
No.
And doesn't fly. But whereas that sort of there's a very uniform way that those micros land on the water, and when you're fishing fast flowing rivers like this and hard and deep venues. Yeah. Uniformity is everything, because you can keep things in one area, you can keep your bait in one area, and then you can keep your fish in one area.
Absolutely. Here we go.
No mess in there, Tom. You didn't miss that one, did you?
No. Makes a change though, doesn't it? It's interesting. The peg's definitely changed, hasn't it, as we went into the afternoon?
Yeah, it's just pace has picked up a bit, hasn't it? But it's been.
It's just amazing fishing.
Still just a lot of fish there, isn't there?
I mean, we've had a load of chub, some nice roach. It's been pretty awesome, hasn't it, Dave? I must say.
It's always awesome, isn't it?
Look at them. Epic. So what I want us to do now is start to something new, a new project. A little short section. I want you to tell me about a product that you've used for years, and maybe doesn't get the limelight that it deserves. And I'm going to do the same.
Yeah, I like this idea, Tom. This is one of your ideas, isn't it?
Is it one of my better ideas?
Yeah, and you were due one, in all fairness. You were due a good idea.
Thank you very much.
It's been a bit lacking. So, are we going to do this now, are we?
I think we'll do it now, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up on the box, catching a couple more fish.
Me catching on the box.
I think it better be, don't you?
Come on then, let's have a look. Right, so this is my idea for a new section in the review. I'm going to kick it off, Dave, by asking you to tell me about a product that you've used for years and you don't think... Did you make this tea?
What's wrong with it?
I don't know, it just made me cough.
Yorkshire tea, that is, pal. Nothing wrong with that.
No, I like Yorkshire tea. Sorry, go on.
I want to ask you to tell me all about a product that you've used before for many years that maybe doesn't get the limelight it deserves for being a great piece of angling equipment.
Right, so in all fairness, when you asked me this, I had to think hard. I was struggling to think of anything really, because I'd never thought about it. but I've now thought about it, and I've thought actually, and there's more and more things coming. But the item I chose, are we doing a big reveal on this?
The big reveal.
Okay, so you see, I'm keeping it.
I
close
can.
to me. The one that I thought sprung to my mind, and specifically kind of river things, but you know, obviously other venues as well. But was the Kamasan black cap feeder.
Ah,
now,
okay.
You know, when you think about something, you realise that something's been around for what seems like ever. I mean, I don't know how long these have been on the market.
No.
I'd say 20 years, possibly. They've never changed. They've never changed in quality. I've never seen had a bad batch or whatever. They're pretty simple, you know what I mean? The power gum, you know, things like that. And I'm not going to go into the details of a feeder. I'm just saying it's a product that I've used and abused. They sit in my, you know, when I put them away after a match, they might be wet. I put them away, and then next time I come up, they might look a bit jaded, but they don't fall apart. They don't crack or anything like that. I've been using them for years. I like, you know, I had my little add-on leads. Got one there, little medium one there, little strap on. We like a strap on.
A little strap on.
Yeah. But you know, and a different size, and it's just something that I've used for a long time. And when you were asking the question, I was like, yeah, that's it. I don't know. I reckon maybe 20 years that's been around.
Okay, so let's be really clear. What do you use these for?
So block end feeder fishing, chub fishing, barbel fishing, whether you're fishing, you know, the holes on these are the right size. So maggot fishing, you know, whether you're just fishing purely maggots or hempen casters, they all come out. In latter years, 4mm pellets, barbel fishing, you just don't need to change your feeder. If anything that's particle based, it comes out of there. You can tape them up if you wanted to sort of slow it down and stuff. I rarely do that. I'm not that technical, to be honest. But yeah, so they're just brilliant on this river, and they're the right shape. Most, you know, the old dead cows. Yeah. The dead cows, they fit perfectly on there as well. So you can just add your weights and play with your weights. And that's something that I find in my feeder fishing is critical at certain times. You know, not just about barbel fishing when you chaining a big cage feeder to the bottom. It's sometimes it's about, you know, bouncing a feeder around, especially for chub and that, and you've got to be a bit more subtle about it. So and they're perfect. I just use them.
Well, I think as you say, a legendary product, a deserving first edition for this new.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, I've used them for years as well, and they are a brilliant product.
Yeah.
So there you are, folks. Check them out. The Kamasan black cap feeders.
So then, Tom, I've shown you my feeders. What little treat have you got for me?
A product I've used an awful lot over the last 3 years is these things, RW floats. And I've got a specific shape of float here that I want to talk about. There's actually 3 different patterns here. I don't really want to go into every exact pattern because people can do that at their leisure. But RW floats are handmade by a chap called Richie Wilson.
RW?
RW. You can buy them from his shop online, RW Floats.
Okay.
And they've really been made famous, I'd say, it's fair to say, by Andy Bennett. He used them for loads of his fishing. I just want to show you, Dave, a few of these. I mean,
there's a familiar pattern here, isn't there? You know, it's a shape of float that we've seen, you know, in other quite, should we say, often copied pattern. Are these a well copied float?
I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, this sort of slim, elongated shape. We've got a number of different bristles here, a number of different stems here, but basically all these dink type floats. You've got a carp dink, that one. I think that one's called an F1 dink with the wire stem. As I said, it's basically a pattern that's never really bettered for winter commercial fishing or summer commercial fishing when small baits in deep water.
So maggot and pellet fishing.
Absolutely.
A lot of F1 style fishing.
Absolutely. The F1 dink I love as well for fishing for skimmers with baits like, you know, maggots and casters and pellets at Hallcraft. I'll tell you when I use these as opposed to finer patterns like Chiantis, for example, or you know, your more traditional silverfish type patterns. I think these are great. A, when you're F1 fishing, and B, when you're fishing for skimmers, but there's a chance of a carp or two. Right. They're really, really good when it's, you know, mixed fishing, because we all know the worst thing about the Chianti is, and I'm talking the old style purple Chiantis that I love. You know, you can catch, they're so beautiful for silverfish, but you hook a carp and boom, the eye's gone. Or,
they weren't very durable.
These are finesse floats, but they're strong enough to land carp.
What's so describe to me the makeup of because I know like handmade floats are generally the idea is that they are stronger. So are these indestructible or are they just very strong? How is that eye made, you know, on the side of the float?
If you look closely, you can see it's actually whipped on. But they're just super strong in construction, really. That's all I can say. They're not indestructible. They don't claim to be indestructible. but they just perform very well. You know, they're very strong, but they've got the finesse.
And the bodies have got quite a hard exterior, so that you don't get that line bedding in and things
No,
like that.
there's none of that.
Right.
I think the foam bodies, the eyes, as you say, they're just a standard eye. I hate the big spring eyes.
I can't be doing with it.
Because
can't be doing it.
It spoils presentation.
It's the work of the devil, I believe.
The work of Satan himself, I'd say. Spoils presentation.
Yeah.
So
I like that one, probably for my age and eyesight, but I like that with a bigger bridge. I can imagine you can pin that down proper, get a little dimple on the surface and it'll pop under. And
I could be totally wrong, but I'm fairly sure what happened with that particular float you've got in your hand there is the F1 Dink, which is in your other hand, that was a really popular pattern. And then Christian Jones and Kieran Marsden were going to Western Pools a lot, fishing for big carp with big baits like 8mm pellets. They still felt they wanted that pattern for finesse. So they asked for it with a thicker bristle, and that's why that's the carp dink, and that's where that was born from.
Have you got a lot of these?
I've got a lot. Would you like one or two?
I wouldn't mind a few of them. Not for this sort of venue, but you know, I think when I get back on my commercial scene in the spring, I shall be having a look at these. So you have used these extensively.
I have. I've caught a lot of fish on them. Couldn't be more confident and happy with them. I think what I really like, and the reason I picked them for my pick for this, is they're a finesse float at the end of the day. And let's face it, commercial fishing nowadays, you need every little edge you can get. So these are a lovely float. You can shot dead delicately. You can get them absolutely nailed with the right amount of trimmers on, but they're strong enough to stand up to the rigours of commercial fishing.
A couple of number 4s and a number 6. Like.
You've got it.
Tell me about because I'm quite interested in this whole handmade floats versus you know, and in all fairness, there are some really good handmade floats out there. What are the price points massively different? What price would you pay for those? I don't want to put the brand on them.
No,
for what it is, but what sort of
I'll be
price?
100% honest, you'd have to have a look, but they're under £3. You know, I think from memory they're about £2.30, something like that.
So it's kind of in line with what you pay for a shop bought or a manufactured float.
And these will last you. You know, the normal patterns that you'll see on Rich's shop are grey, but you can get some black exclusive patterns from various places. Matchwin and Edges do them in black, but the same floats, a different colour body. But they're absolutely brilliant. So I'd wholeheartedly recommend anybody looking for a new commercial float pattern for their armoury, for maggots, pellets, that sort of thing. What do you think?
I like them. I like the look of them, and I think I might get some.
You can have them.
Really?
Don't say I never give you anything.
But I'd want to make 2 up of each.
Of course you would.
I'll speak to Richie. He'll chuck me some for free.
Yeah, you've got one out of me. I'm a Yorkshireman.
Yeah. So are we doing this every time now? We've got to find something that some tried and tested. Is it what we call it?
Tried and tested. Tried and tested. You just came up with a name.
There you go. See, it's just sometimes it just comes to me, Tom.
Can't teach that, can you? That can't be taught.
No, tried and tested. So that's it coming up every
episode.
Tried and tested. Right.
Simply lovely.
Right, come on. Can we go and do some tried and tested chub fishing?
Come on then. So Dave, this seems like the perfect opportunity to wrap up what to me, as always on the Wye, has been quite a special day.
You can see you've had a couple of hours on the Wye and you're bouncing them across the surface now. You're in bagging mode, aren't you now?
Hey, is this the first? It's a Dace.
Dace on the Fjuka.
It is. That's the first Dace of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think Dace don't like the Fjuka, or do you think they're just? Or do you think there's just not many Dace there? In all fairness, the Dace haven't moved in here properly.
Have they not?
So I
mean, that's the first Dace we've had, so it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, right, honestly, with Fjuka, I went on the Steynie last year.
Just translate that for non-northern folks.
Staying for the Cuba Canal.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And we never caught a roach. I caught a shed load of little hybrids, pommies, skimmers. Never had a roach. And the venue was lifting with roach. So I was like, this is really strange. It's really selective. Selected them. And went to March, then caught loads of roach on it. Went back to the Steynie this year and caught loads of roach on it. So I think that flavour, whatever it is, it definitely has different effects on different days, depending on how the fish are feeding. I'd love to understand it, and I think as we get to know more about the bait, we will. You know,
well,
but it's definitely
an evolving project.
Yeah, it definitely catches.
The other thing we haven't tried, and I would like to try, is with some of the. You've got these high-coloured ones, the high neons. That's what you call them. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Just to see if I might have a chat when we finished. I might just have a little.
You can have a sneaky go.
I'd like to have a little.
Go on, well, you can have one more cast then while we conclude today's proceedings.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
I'm good like that, pal.
You are.
So let me ask you first of all, sum up then this rod. What's your thoughts?
Right, so I'm a Cadence fan now. I have been for a while, and this is, I don't know, what was that? It's fish. Is that a dog jumping in or a fish jumping?
It was a fish.
Sounded like a salmon.
Could have been a salmon. Catch me a salmon on that, and there's £1,000 prize.
£1,000 fine, probably as well. Yeah, no, the rod. You know, like I say, the thing I like about the whole Cadence project is that they don't just bring out rods for anything. You know, they bring out rods for they see a market. Oh, I missed it.
Oh, nice bite though, wasn't it?
It was actually. My strike wasn't very nice. That elbow still playing.
Oh, tennis elbow. Yeah. See, I've been absolutely shown up and battered today by a man with tennis elbow. I mean, it is his river. You do own the Wye, don't you? I've heard.
Well, some have said that, but it's not true. There's
Old Father Wye.
Some say I was an orphan brought up by roaches. Yeah, so I like they bring out a rod for us. So you know, James Robbins fishes this river. He fishes these rivers. He knows there's a number of anglers that would.
That one's not been missed, has it?
No, it has.
Oh, it has.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there, Tom. I missed 2 bites in 2 chucks. Perhaps I've just not hooked that one properly.
You're not as good at catching the dace as I am, are you?
Perhaps that's what it is. It's dace. Let's just try a different.
What are you going for, a 5 mil?
I'm going for a 5 mil, something they can just get in their mouth. Yeah. So they don't just bring it. So obviously they've looked at it and gone, well, there's no, you know, sort of, is there another 16-foot rod on the market? I can't think of one that springs to mind, a really good one.
No.
I can tell you 17-foot rods, and not all of them are that good, if I'm honest. Yeah, so these rods have obviously been bought out. This number 1, number 2, and possibly a number 3 is, I think, is a good system.
Yes.
You know, you can choose your rod for the sort of fishing you do. From what I've seen, I'd use this rod for all this sort of fishing. This is very aggressive fishing, you know, and I'd fish bread on this, you know. We've swung fish to probably 10 ounces today. Yeah. Probably swing them to a pound if you're a real animal, but I'm not about that, Tom. So yeah, the rod is fit for purpose, which I would fully expect. It's usable. It's, you know, and the pricing point then, Tom. What were these? What did these come out at? You looked into this?
Yeah, £169.99, which for a 16-foot rod I think's brilliant.
I thought they were £170.
Well, you know, a penny more, a penny less, or whatever it is.
So yeah, that puts it in, and that's the Cadence thing, isn't it? I mean, that sounds cheap to me for
what it is. I think.
But this is the whole idea of the project, isn't it? The Cadence aren't selling through tackle shops; it's a direct sale, isn't it? So that's where the price difference comes. Would you say? Is that fair?
Yeah, and on the price, you know, what I'd be interested to know as somebody who's obviously doesn't know as much about this long rod fishing as you do, but what would you improve? What would you change with that rod? You know, if I said I can make you a rod at 500 quid, what would you want it to have that hasn't got?
500 quid? I don't know.
I can't think of a way of improving that. It's bloody lovely, isn't it?
No, I'd have to use it more I'd be looking to try and find faults, and I haven't found any faults today. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I think as technologies change, I think in the long run that these rods can be slimmer. But that's not just this rod, that's any rod. You know, like I say, the 17-foot market, people haven't quite nailed it yet.
No.
And I think I'd like to see them, if they could find a 17-foot rod, if they could get a 17-foot rod to this same sort of weight and balance, I think you'd have a brilliant tool. But
I've seen some super slim blanks on long rods. I have seen that, but they tend to be floppier. Yeah, they tend to be.
And that's not criticism. That's not any criticism. I'm not finding a fault with this. I'm just saying that's rod design in general. Cast me up quite soon. You know, just what I look at in long rods and stuff like that. I'm just seeing lots of different rods on the market, but I just feel that now the technology, you know, when you look at the technology that's going into pole design and stuff, you feel like you would hope that there's enough, the same sort of design goes into long rods, but remembering that this is quite a niche thing.
Oh, that was gorgeous.
Started missing bites now, Tom. I don't know what's.
Well,
I'm not used to this.
Mark of the Dace have appeared. Right, it. We know what they're like for missed bites. Crafty little characters.
Do you know what I'm going to try, Tom?
What are you going to try?
I said I'm going to try. I'm going to mould one into the shape of a maggot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I just want to you know, this is the whole thing, isn't it? This is not just about this river today and what this bait's about.
Yeah, what you can do with it, isn't it?
I saw this, so I'm just going to really just mould it up like that. Looks like a nice big white maggot, that does, doesn't it?
It does.
You know what? I wonder if it'll work through the point like a maggot. Yeah, it does as well. I'm going to do 2. I'm going to have double.
Double white maggot. So we're going to catch one on double white maggot to finish on.
Do you reckon this will work?
Yes. I've got ultimate confidence in you, pal.
Look at that.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like going back to the old days, like 2 wasp grub. Great big maggots.
I'll tell you what, you cast it absolutely masterfully there as well.
Not my first time at the rodeo, Tom.
Clearly isn't, is it? Oh, amended, lovely. Tell you what,
it's nice
why
now
come you're on the box and there's no wind? This is what I want to
It's
know.
blowing a gale, Tom. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
The wind hasn't changed all day, whether you've been sat on the box or not.
We both know.
No, it does, it's lovely now, and it's just dropped.
That typical late afternoon, isn't
Oh,
it?
you can just do anything you want with the float.
Make it talk. in your
Oh,
case.
yeah, I can't make it go under there. So why aren't they having me double maggot? It could be, well, it's Fjuka, double Fjuka in it, so it's not a maggot. It could be a double. No, it couldn't be a double faggot, surely.
You can't say that anymore. You can if it's a Belgian faggot.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, you're allowed to say that.
Why's that? What's a Belgian faggot?
They're like a meatball. Nice.
Oh right, okay. Well, I know what a faggot is, but I didn't realise it was called a Belgian one.
No, I've had it at Barston. Belgian faggots are really tasty.
Right, okay.
You've never had a Belgian faggot, Dave? You haven't?
I'm not. Oh, now see that those both of me double moulded maggot came off. I shan't do that again. Do you know what I'm going to try now? I'm going to try 2 of the micros. 3 maybe. I'm going to thread 3 micros onto the hook.
You've gone all creative all of a sudden.
I have actually. It's just not very often you get a chance to do these sorts of things, is it? So with these, we've been feeding these. So I wonder if this.
It'll be interesting to see, won't it?
Smaller bait, probably a bit small for that big gaff of a hook. But they are in a ravenous mood.
We shall see, won't we?
I do like the uniformity of these micros. They feed beautifully.
They do feed beautifully,
Yeah.
and it's the same all the way up to the fat boy. You can imagine with a big catapult, you could fire them 40 or 50 yards if you wanted to.
I've seen Tommy fishing for a barbel with these micros. You put them in a block end feeder, didn't you?
You did, Mark. Yeah, he fished the black micros and hemp through a block end feeder with a fat boy on the hook, and it was pretty good.
Kingfish. Did you see the kingfish?
Oh, I did.
Does life get any better than
It doesn't.
Well, I didn't have a bite that cast, Tom, which is probably a first today.
It's been epic again, hasn't it, Dave? Absolutely amazing.
Let's be fair, you love it here, don't you?
It's fast becoming my favourite venue.
And I love it that you love it.
It's just a treat, isn't it? I mean, we've caught some fantastic fish. We've given that rod, which I think is absolutely sublime, proper workout today.
Well, I think the thing is, it's not just the fishing, it's not just the hooking fish, which it was, hooking at distance. We've caught some down the bottom of the peg as well, but it was soft enough. But also, it was swinging big fish, so it's been perfect for the job, I reckon.
Absolutely, and the Fjuka bait once again hasn't disappointed.
An interesting project, Tom. I've really enjoyed being able to use it in a scenario that I believe it could work in, and it has worked. So that's been really interesting for me, and it's nice to get it out, not get it out on the bank. But what a venue! It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely stunning part of the world. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll be back in a few weeks' time. We've got a Christmas special planned for you, so I think you're going to enjoy that. Some nice Preston Innovations products and a few other bits I think you'll like. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See you next time.